Is pornography pushing people towards sexual violence? After the recent rape of a doctor at Kolkata's RG Kaur hospital, this question has never felt more urgent.
According to our sources coming in from the investigators, that he was addicted to pornography, explicit pornography.
First, let's rewind a little bit.
Nirbhaya or Jyoti Singh, the 23-year-old paramedic student, remember, who was brutally gang raped on 16th of December 2012 and eventually breathed her last in Singapore.
December 2012, a young woman is gang raped on a moving bus in Delhi. During the investigation, it's revealed that the attackers were regular consumers of violent pornography. The perpetrators admitted that it fueled their twisted fantasies. Now, that was the Nirbhaya case from Delhi. 2013, a photojournalist is gang raped in the abandoned Shakti Mills compound. The culprits were apparently addicted to violent porn. They said they were driven to reenact the horrors they watched online. That is what happened in the Shakti Mills gang rape case from Mumbai. 2024, Sanjoy Roy is arrested as the main accused in the RG Kaur hospital rape and murder case. The police allegedly find in his phone what they said was a significant amount of pornographic content, including incest videos depicting sexual acts between siblings. These revelations led to headlines like these.
Several videos and that was recovered by the SIT from his mobile phone, and that shows that he was necrophilic.
These are just a few of the cases that have forced us to confront the disturbing question of the link between pornography and rapes. Are they related? Or throwing up terms like these is just a way of othering the perpetrator so that the rest of us can just call these gruesome cases as social aberrations and move on. We outrage for a few days, weeks, maybe months even, but in the end, we move on. Although 86 women still get raped every day in the country. I'm Manisha Dikari and you're watching First Things Fast. In this video, I have intentionally made sure we do not give out any unnecessary graphic details. We don't want to needlessly dramatize these crimes or sensationalize them. We don't want to feed into a culture that glorifies violence. And we, of course, also don't want to commodify the very subject that we're trying to fight as a society. So we shall only focus on the facts.
It has been seen by particularly one Nielsen study.
Okay, wait. Let me introduce you to Professor Rajat Mitra. Professor Mitra knows his psycho killers. He's a professor of clinical psychology at Amity University, Noida. He has also worked as a clinical psychologist in the past, and he has helped the police investigate many cases involving sexual offenders. We spoke to him to get a sense of how porn affects people's minds. Back to what Professor Mitra was saying.
It has been seen by particularly one Nielsen study that people who consume pornography beyond a certain number of hours, it affects them in a very adverse way in order to go ahead and believe that to be reality. They take that as a substitute for reality.
Those people, the professor says, are not able to separate between what's fantasy and what's real life. In fact, you can attach a number to this. According to the professor, studies show that anyone who watches porn beyond 20 hours a week, their relationships apparently are different from others. Now let's dive straight into the topic. On one side, some argue that porn, especially violent porn, can distort reality and fuel dangerous fantasies. But others say that it's more complicated than that porn alone is not enough to drive someone to commit rape. People often call for action against pornography.
केंद्र सरकार ने एक नए आदेश में 67 porn websites पर बैन लगाने का फैसला किया.
But what's the real impact on those who do watch porn? Ban or no ban? As part of my research, I chanced upon this 10-year-old story in the BBC. It cites two very interesting studies. This is how the first one goes. So back in 1961, a psychologist named Albert Bandura ran a famous experiment, also known as the Bobo doll experiment. Bandura used inflatable plastic toys called Bobo dolls that were about 3 to 5 feet tall. Now, they were painted to look like cartoon clowns. Weighted at the bottom, these Bobo dolls popped back up when knocked down. Bandura then gathered a bunch of children from a nursery school at Stanford. Then he made them watch an adult person beat up these Bobo dolls. Then he left the kids alone with the doll to see what they'd do. Surprise, surprise, these kids started throwing punches too. Bandura's takeaway? We tend to copy violent behavior rather than getting it out of our system.
He sexually forced himself on her, showed no emotion, showed no remorse, full-on pornography content. How easily is pornography available on mobile phones?
Now, there was another interesting study done in the 1980s by a man called Neil Malamuth, who wondered if people who consume pornography also copied the behavior they were watching. He dedicated his career to studying this. As a psychology student at University of California, Neil conducted a telling experiment. The year was 1986. He gathered 42 men and tested them on something called the likelihood of rape scale. Then he split them into 3 groups. The first group watched sexually explicit materials that depicted scenes of rape and sadomasochism. The second group watched non-violent porn. The third group, the control, watched nothing. A week later, these men were paired with a woman who was not attracted to them supposedly. Then came a guessing game. Basically, these men could ask the woman a set of questions. If she got any of the answers wrong, the man could go ahead and punish her. To cut a long study short, through this and several other studies, Neil Malamuth found that if a man is already prone to sexual aggression and consumes a lot of sexually aggressive porn, he's more likely to act on those impulses. Some people have jumped on this to claim that porn directly leads to rape. The Kolkata perpetrator, Sanjay Roy, could therefore be held as a proof of this. But Malamuth himself had warned that to conclude porn directly leads to rape would be an oversimplification. Take alcohol for instance. Many people drink alcohol to relax and have fun, but some people are also prone to turning violent when drunk. Similarly, the relationship between porn and rape is also complex. The link cannot be explained in black and white.
No, rapes cannot be blamed on mental disorder or pornography. I mean, it has been ruled by the courts also that sexual assault is to do with a person's will. So you may have a mental disorder, right? But that mental disorder does not define you, right? Okay. It is not something which is a compulsion for you to act or behave in a certain way. So in no way can we say that a person can, get away by saying that there is a mental disorder and so therefore I could not stop it.
Porn is everywhere in India, just a few clicks away on any smartphone. Data plans are cheaper, phones are cheaper. India also has the highest data usage per smartphone. Put all of that together and you get this. Now, this 2021 study published in Sage Journals estimates that 90% of Indian boys and 60% girls under the age of 18 have been exposed to pornography. The average age of first exposure to porn? Just 12 years. The same study said that approximately 88% porn scenes include acts of physical aggression, 48% contain verbal aggression. And most alarming, 94% of the target group of this sexual aggression were women. Not a surprise, therefore, that some experts associate porn consumption with a disturbing rise in sexual violence. But the same study we mentioned earlier also found that while there's a correlation between porn and rape, it's not definitive proof. There are other factors at play too, such as poor sex education, societal attitudes, etc. But let's not forget, there are many cases where the link seems undeniable. Although we are a long way from conviction or otherwise, Sanjay Roy in the Kolkata case may be just that example. Because according to details emerging out of the investigations, Roy was addicted to violent porn. This Press Trust of India report cited an unnamed police officer saying the pornography content in Roy's phone was disturbing and violent. According to this story, most of the porn found on Sanjay Roy's mobile phone was incest videos. This is what apparently prompted the CBI to conduct a psychological evaluation of the man. On the same night as the gruesome rape and murder in the RG Kaur hospital, Roy had apparently visited 2 red light areas also. He did not have sex in either of those places apparently, but the police said that he did confess to molesting a woman in the street, an act captured on surveillance cameras. That same night, he allegedly went on to perpetrate that gruesome rape and murder at the hospital. For those of you wondering whether Roy's porn consumption could be linked to the violent act, remember how watching porn alone is not proof of having raped someone? So in Roy's case, it is increasingly turning out that he had exhibited violent behavior in the past as well. Roy was married at least 4 times apparently. Some called him a womanizer. And he had a history of physically abusing his wives. His 4th wife had even lodged a domestic violence complaint according to the police. Roy had also allegedly fought with his sisters, besides also abandoning his mother. The truth also is, every time a high-profile case like this comes up, there's a rush to blame something. Anything that we can point to. And porn is often an easy target. But focusing only on porn risks oversimplifying a complex issue. What we really need is a deeper conversation about why these crimes happen and what we can do to prevent them.
I don't think reformation as such for them is possible. Yes, they can be restrained, they can be controlled, right? And also there is a debate about whether, which is very much there in our country right now, that the quantum of punishment should be increased. Unko phansi lagao, right? Rapists ko phansi do, right? Sexual assault is not to be, brought to an end by hanging these people. No way.
So, what can we do? First, we need to push for better, more comprehensive sex education that does not shy away from tough topics like porn. We need to talk openly about consent, relationships, and what healthy sexual behavior looks like. And we need to ensure that those who are vulnerable, like those predisposed to violence, get the help they need before it's too late.
It is more important that, more important than the quantum of punishment is the certainty of punishment. The police need to know about rape as a behavioral crime, about how to investigate sexual assault. And sexual assault is the only crime where the crime scene is the woman's body. So they need to understand about how to how to diagnose a sexual assault and then, go ahead with that. They need a different kind of methodology and technique.
But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think porn is a scapegoat in the conversation about sexual violence, or does it play a bigger role than we realize? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's keep this important conversation going. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content that digs into the issues that matter. Stay safe, stay informed. Thanks for watching. First things fast.